Thank you very much, Dr. Wang. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me for participating in the book and participating today in here. This is a rare opportunity. Some colleagues of mine I've already mentioned before. It's stimulating, it's enriching, it's contributing certainly for a better analysis and enriching our perspectives in all of us, which is our job. So congratulations and thank you very much for having me. I wrote some time ago my contribution for your book that you kindly invited me to write. I wrote about multilateralism and about the challenges and the rule of law and the principles. And today I'd like to take the main ideas that I mentioned in this book because I think they are much up to date on this context. Nowadays we face as many challenges, the pandemic, globalization, and the challenge of globalization and the impacts in economy, but also peace and security. So and climate change as well, of course. So all these elements are present in a certain way in these principles, rules that we have to share in all the world in order to fulfill our job. In fact, since at least 1945, the notion that there are universal principles common to all humankind has been deeply integrated in the international system. These do not imply a notion of superiority from others to others, but rather of union between everybody. They do not aim to impose rules, but they aim rather to share common principles and values in all nations. And they are not a power tool for some, but rather a tool of empowerment for everybody. The fact that these values and principles are widely shared should therefore be seen as a conquest and a victory of all, as it signifies that there is a common ground on which we can build and talk all around the world. A discourse based on them does not need to be seen as a lecture to anyone, as different views on how to achieve some of them do not need to be taken as deviation from its importance. As the current international set of shared values and principles demonstrates, there is always room for debate and improvement of these rules. Some of those that are taken for granted today were the result of strong debates some decades ago. With this evolution came great responsibility for all nations. What may be viewed by some as interference may be sought by others as a direct consequence of transparency, information, and joint accountability to values and principles enshrined in international documents signed by all with the compromise of all. What others may think as of a tool to diminish certain feats and conquests should be taken up by others as an opportunity to showcase the implementation of a commitment to development in all of its dimensions. All of this is made possible because ours is a rules-based international order. International law, the end of secret pacts or treaties, the ability to jointly define norms and patterns through dialogue, cooperation, and an open exchange of views are some of the world's most important achievements for humankind. Though sometimes discarded by some as a sign of weakness and viewed by others as a tool to be used only when it is deemed useful, the notion that the world has a set of rules and norms that is shared by all and can be jointly shaped, defined and therefore understood is a development that cannot be underestimated. The United Nations play a central role in this common and shared architecture. An organization where all countries are equal, despite of their size, economic weight, or geographical position. An organization where all issues big or small, are jointly discussed and analyzed, an organization that shapes our daily lives. As a firmly pro-European country, Portugal, my country, has found in the European Union a perfect example of the benefits of this multilateral approach. Portugal is now a proud member of a family that brings together 27 countries, an organization where the pooling of sovereignty is not seen as a loss for anyone, but as a gain for all, where dialogue and compromise have replaced confrontation in our history, where despite the qualified majority rules in a vast array of areas, member states still try their best to reach a common position in which all can be comfortable. These achievements were not without costs. They were made possible by a conscious decision to favor law instead of might, and to listen, therefore, before deciding rather to impose. The current rules-based international order, where debate is possible and encouraged, norms are openly discussed and updated when necessary, and international law is the glue that binds countries together, has been instrumental to the world's development and will be equally central when addressing the many challenges humanity is facing, like climate change, global pandemic, globalization, and peace and security. Different countries with different cultures, different histories, will probably always see and interpret certain facts in a different way. That does not mean that there is not a common ground uniting us all. The values we share, enshrined in international treaties, declarations, and resolutions, the architecture jointly built by all, where the United Nations and international law play a central and fundamental role, and the common responsibility to talk, but also to listen. Certain countries, due to their size, population, or economic weight, have a particular responsibility in driving this approach forward, which is why the behavior of some is more closely scrutinized than others. As with great power comes great responsibility, that should come as a surprise, but rather as an incentive to do more and to do better for the benefit of us all. Diversity is one of the world's most enriching qualities, one that defies and challenges us, but also one which must not lead to forced isolation or forceful imposition. If we live in a global and interconnected world, the actions of one country may and sometimes do impact on others, which is why we must all, diplomats, think tanks, politicians, civil society, academia, make an effort to think how one's actions may impact the view of others. Why the need to care and to foster for our common values should not be seen as interference, but rather as a platform for dialogue and common improvement. Why dialogue should never be cast aside, and why cooperation should always be preferred option over confrontation. As foreign policy begins at home, the challenge of economy recovery and of green and digital transition should be seen a way for peace and security as well, to take common approach forward for us all. Thank you very much.